G'day folk, how are you? And welcome to another Thursday night live around the campfire. Tonight is going to be a big night. I'm really looking forward to it. And I'm going to share with you the purpose of tonight. My whole job as a man, for me and as a father, is to bring up the best possible son that I can, to become the best possible man that he can. And throughout my life, I've had many opportunities. And one of my biggest regrets in life was I didn't support my wife enough during her pregnancy. I lost my virginity at the age of 12. I didn't have a great respect for women. I refused to let that happen to my son. And the only way in which I can have that and he can grow from that is to talk about things that are important in life. I want to understand menstruation so that I can educate him, because I think it's a beautiful thing. And tonight, I am so lucky, and I'm so lucky to be a part of the campfire, because I've got 3 women who I trust to hold space and open this conversation honestly. So tonight, thank you, Lisa, thank you, Kylie, and thank you, Sharon, for taking on something that's going to help me grow. We've got some feedback going on there. I hope it's not me. That's okay.
It's the same thing.
It is what it is. We'll work through it. So, menstruation. What is it? Who'd like to throw up their hand first? Sharon?
I thought your description, your written description, was very good. It was a fairly medical description, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, thank you, because that's actually one of the reasons why that was the first thing I hit. I went straight to Google. What is it? What's menstruation? And that came up. So,
yeah. But I've had to explain it to young girls often.
Okay.
How do you? As a teacher. And I've had young girls who've come to me with their periods as young as 9. So I've had to then explain to them on the spot with their girlfriends around them, because they're all panicking. And I've just said, because really it's their mother's responsibility, not mine. But when you become a teacher, you sign a creed that says that you act in loco parentis, which is Latin for as a parent would act. So I always remember that, and I just say to them, look, Mary's becoming a woman. It's about part of becoming a woman. She's growing up. And if they need more information, if they're sort of, saying, well, why is there blood? I soften it, because it really is up to their mums. But I do say, look, your body's preparing for things that are part of being a woman. And then if those things don't happen, then the body stops, and that's what produces the blood. And, I haven't taken it much further than that, unless the mother has then said, can you explain it further? Because I'm not very good at this. So, yeah, it's
that's interesting, Sharon. That was making me just this really vivid memory came up for me then about being a teenager. And before I got my period, my mum was so of that generation that you don't speak about those things. So everything was hidden, like even the pads in the drawer. And I remember as a little girl going to the drawer and opening up the drawer and saying, Mum, what are these? And she goes, oh, you don't need to know about that. You don't need to know about that. There was so much shame and like, that's dirty, and like that sort of a feeling around it, even as a child. And I thought, because I have 2 daughters now, a 24-year-old and a 13-year-old. And for me, it's like, this is a normal, and actually this is the most amazing thing that a woman has, like this experience of being able to menstruate and create a child at some stage, a long time in the future. A long way. But it's the honouring, because that moment of, and watching my daughters go through their first period and seeing the blood and like, can you imagine, like for the men out there, imagine standing in the shower or going, you might be, because for me, we were on a family picnic the day I got my period, and I went to the toilets and there was just all this blood, and like you think you're dying. You're just like, because my mum never talked to me about it because she was ashamed of it. So I'm just like, oh my God, you think you're going to die, and and even if you know about it, it's still horrific. Like all this blood, you know. And then you do eventually get to the point where it's like, oh yeah, that's just what happens.
Yeah.
But the first time, you know, and that honoring it, like our attitudes as a society to be able to say, this is so sacred. This is part of a women's sanctity, and like what an honor that we have this, and you know, and making it like that for them rather than, you know, don't talk about it, hide it in the drawer sort of thing.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful.
That's fantastic. So I would like to ask you three lovely women, what was it like for each of you? And thank you, Lisa. I would like to hear from Kylie to understand what it was like when you first got your period.
My mum was reasonably open about it, quite prepared. You know, so I kind of knew that it was coming. I used to go on holidays to my auntie's place. It was my great auntie, so she was older, you know, in her 60s, 70s by then. So mum had sort of like, if this happens while you're away, she's not going to have anything for you, you know, here's your pads just in case. But I was at home and I got up in the morning and went to the toilet, you know, 6 o'clock in the morning, and the same thing, blood everywhere, and I was just looking at it. And your first instinct, even though I knew, my first instinct was, oh my God, I'm bleeding to death. And then you kind of go, no, wait, oh my God, that's it. This is it. Oh, what do I do? And I just sat there frozen. And I sat there and screamed for my mother.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Mum, I just sat there and screamed. And like our toilet was way away from her bedroom, but I could have got off the toilet really. Like now I know this, but I just sat there and screamed. And Mum come in and with her eyes closed, going, "What, have you run out of toilet paper or something?" No, Mum, look, it's blood everywhere. And she's like, "Oh my God!" She kicked into action, gave me the day off school. So I remember. She got a day off school and she came home with me, and at lunchtime, you know, she had lunch with me and sat down with me and said, "This is it. You're a woman. Be thankful you're not in a third world country. You'd be married off now."
Oh, wow. Good point.
Good job, Mum. Good job.
I'm really sorry. I just need 1 second before this broadcast dies. Hang on 2 seconds. Sorry.
All right. It's gone. It's all
like,
too much.
You know, okay, you know, in other countries, this is what happens to women.
Wow,
and well, you're right.
I love the way you said, Kylie, then that you screamed your head off. Like I've had that experience with one of my daughters, just standing and screaming hysterically, like the shock of it, you know?
Yeah.
I wish I'd been in an environment that I could have done that, because I think it would have actually really helped at the time. So I think you're really lucky that you could do that.
Yeah, I could scream. Yeah. It was, I mean, even knowing about it, I think it's still huge. Yeah.
And so the fact that it's going to happen every month for the rest of your, like, the next 50 years. Like, one of my daughters was like, "What? Does this happen?" Like, I know it happens. It doesn't really, does it? Like every month, really? And I'm like, yeah.
No, I remember a friend telling me years later that, you know, her mum told her the whole thing, and she was like, "Okay, all prepared and everything." And then when it happened, she was like, "Right, it's done." And her mum was like, "Okay, we get to go through it next month." And she was like, "Wait, really? No concept that it was going to happen every month." Like, she goes, "Like, for how long?" And her mother was like, "A really long time." Like, just, wow, it's crazy. It's crazy how the messages you get.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask Kylie, just because we're with you at the minute, because as a bloke sitting here, and I'm someone that's pretty open and full of love, and I'm getting daunted right now because you've got all these feelings, but you're sharing this emotion, and I'm sitting back going, "Whoa, did anyone talk to you about that? How did they hold space for you?"
No, not really. I had a friend's mum that was a nurse that was really good. She was really good. She was an old hippie. Like, she wasn't an old hippie. She was 18 when she became a mum, and she was a hippie. So she was really good with us. And I think she educated me and most of my friends. But your mum was, it was still that generation. My mum gave me the books and we talked about it, but she was still like, okay, it wasn't a relaxed, what are you doing? Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Very different to the conversation I had with my son. Very different.
Yeah. So I'm going to get back to that, the conversation you had just with your son, because I'd like to hear Sharon's, and if it's okay, Sharon, menopause has been and gone, and so your experience when you got your first period, what was that like?
I was 12, and it was a big week. I was going to the school dance, and my little boyfriend was coming to pick me up at the house. So I was very excited. My grandmother sent down some beautiful dresses for us, for my sister and I. So there was the new dress and the boyfriend and the school dance, and then the German measles and your first period in 1 week. And the doctor, double whammy, triple whammy. And then the doctor said she might get to the dance. She might. And Mum said, all right, well, we'll see what happens. And that was the German measles, of course. And it just all happened at once. I don't remember Mum telling me a lot to prepare me for the period. I think my sister would have had hers first because she was older and more developed. And I don't remember it being, any big shock. So perhaps there wasn't a lot of blood. I was more concerned about missing the dance and having the German measles and my boyfriend picking me up. I think that all those things superseded. But I had terrible periods as time went on, and Mum hadn't had bad cramps or headaches or anything like it. So she doubted my stories. I think she thought I was hamming it up or exaggerating. So she would get a bit cross and say, oh, stop your nonsense. And Dad would bring me a hot water bottle and a warm milk because he felt so bad that something was happening to me that was making me so distressed, and Mum wasn't empathizing. So he took charge. It was one of the few times in my life that Dad stepped in, and then, of course, she got cross with Dad for spoiling me. So there was quite a lot of family dynamic there.
What a gorgeous father to step in and just not know what he's doing, but just go, I'm loving you the best way I can. Just trying to give you some comfort. Because that brings on a question. Sorry?
Oh, sorry. He risked Mum's wrath,
Yeah.
So, big step. Sorry, go ahead.
So that brings on something for me that, listening to how gorgeous your father was at that point. We don't understand the pain of a period, and all women have different pains, emotions based upon, I don't know. Please educate me, Lisa.
Well, I was actually just going to ask a question, because I think one of the things that, and I hear it quite often, like I hear some men say, oh, she's grumpy, it must be that time of the month, or like there's comments like that. Now, and this is an interesting thing, right? Because I've had very easy periods, and it really hasn't affected how I've been in my life. So I feel very blessed. I've also had girlfriends that are just like, every month they can't move off their bed for 2 days because they're in so much pain. So there's such a great variety. But when it comes to the emotional thing, I think most women would agree that you do feel more vulnerable and more fragile that time of month. So you might be closer to tears, and for some women it's more extreme. But I'd actually like to ask the other ladies, because something that I think is it because of the period that you're feeling that, or do you actually have, if you have emotions that need to be addressed and you've got stuff going on, it actually just heightens what's already there. So it gives you the opportunity to maybe bring out what's there, that already needs to come out, is what I'm thinking, rather than it's because of the period that you're feeling. Because a lot of people say, I'm feeling all this stuff because I have my period. Well, I'm like, maybe, but there's probably something there that really needs to come out, and this is just the opportunity for it to come out. What do you guys think? You're nodding your head, Sharon.
Yeah. I was trying to let Kylie come in if she wanted to.
Yeah, painful. I've had extremely painful periods. And, you know, hospital stuff like trauma. Yeah. I actually had endometriosis really bad in my early 20s. I still have it. Luckily, I had a doctor that understood and believed me. I actually got dismissed by a female doctor, a female gynecologist in hospital, who sent me home and said I had a bowel blockage. And by that time, I was high on pethidine. I'd had an internal by a male doctor whose head I threatened to kick off. I said, get out or I'll kick your head off. And she come down and poked and prodded me and said, oh, no, you've had a bowel blockage. And I was a bit tired and a bit shitty. And I said to her, I know the difference. I know what comes out of where in my body. And I can tell you this is not coming from my bowel. And she was like, oh, well, it is, you know. And I was mortified, and I thought, fellow sister, didn't even believe me. But it turned out I actually had a cyst that had burst and blown it. I was internally bleeding, actually. It actually blew a hole in my uterus and was internally bleeding. So they found that the next day after I went home and everything else worked normally and I went back again. I've just had so much stuff, and I learned very early on to just stand my ground and say, no, this is what it is, and you can't, you know, this is debilitating in some stages. But there are a lot of women who just go to a GP who says, oh, that's just what it's like, you know, and it's really horrible. And there is a lot of stuff that I've learned as I've gotten older about relaxing and releasing it, because you know it's going to hurt. And I knew it was going to hurt, so I would tense up knowing that it was going to hurt. So I would hold everything in, be tense, be cranky, be a little bit more frustrated than normal. And then some guy would go, oh, is it that time of the month? And I'd take his head off, you know. You're like, no, not.
Well, but that's a fascinating thing, because as a guy, that's sort of what we've been told. Like in my research today about finding out what guys think about periods, I watched a few YouTube videos, and I was actually going to put one up first, but I was that appalled by what it said and the way in which guys saw it that I couldn't do that, because I don't believe in feeding toxicity. I actually believe in feeding positivity. So that being said, listening to you now, Kylie, like we had a conversation about full demon, right? And
full demon.
We did. And this is something that, as a guy, I sat back and I think I'm pretty open, and I went back and went, whoa, that's heavy. How are we meant to communicate that? How are we meant to understand? And the only way we can understand is to hear you. So to give us an example of what that can be like, Kylie, would you mind sharing that story?
On my full demon story.
Yeah.
I was on the phone to a friend of mine, a guy, and he was sounding a bit serious. So I rang him, and he said, oh, shit's going on. I said, what's wrong? And he said, my daughter's just gone full demon. And I said, what did you do to her? You know? And he said, she's got a period and there's no Panadol in the house. I was like, fuck's sake, what is wrong with you? Get in the car, drive down, get a Panadol, and while you're at it, buy her some chocolate. She's 30-year-old girl dealing with this, you know. And he said, oh, and he sort of, okay, you know, and he went and got it, and he said, no, she's all right. And I said, full demon, really? And he goes, oh, you know you girls do that. And I said, yeah, you're right. It's that, like, the pain gets unbearable and you haven't got anything, you know. And for her, she was at her dad's house, not her mum's house, you know. She didn't have her sisters around, and she was just like, Dad's not going to cope, you know. And I said, totally get it.
Yeah.
I said, and he said, I don't know why you girls do that. And I was like, mate, you've got like 3 daughters. It's time you learnt this. But we do it because we used to be worshipped for this. There would be a time when we would be like, oh, in the village, oh, she's got her period this week, or, you know, the next few days. You'd be put in a nice little cozy bed. Somebody else would handle your children. The village would gather, and you would just be allowed some time to be alone and worship what was happening and appreciate what was happening with your body. And you'd have some quiet time, and somebody else would, you know, the village would all take turns. They would bring you things. Here's, have some chocolate, you know, something, glass of wine, you know, any of these are good men. But they would bring it, and you didn't have to. I said, now we were told, you know, we can have it all. That started in the 70s with burning a bra, and then the power suits of the 80s, and we can take over the corporate world, and we can be parents, and we can do all the stuff, and we can mow the lawns and clean the dishes and raise fantastic children, have a spotless house, and be the CEO of some amazing company, and we can do all that. And you know, we just ignore that bit. Don't worry about those periods, you know. The ads tell you can still go horse riding and swimming with them, so you must be able to do everything. So we're told we can do all this, and we can't. And it comes out. It comes out as full demon. And it's not pretty, but even as women, we don't even claim that time for ourselves. So many women don't do self-care, and it's vital. You know, we can do all of that, but we also need to have some time alone. And that really is what our periods are every month, is saying, okay, time to stop, settle down, have a little bit of quiet time, or else it's going to come out really not pretty.
No, brilliant. Lisa, are you having the same experiences? Is that...
I can totally relate to that inside, going inside. Because I do feel, and like I find my body will tell me when my period, like it took me a long time. Actually, to be honest, when I was younger, as a teenager, I was a little bit naughty, and I got put on the pill fairly early. But that actually shuts down all of your body's ability to feel, which I didn't realize until I became a lot more conscious and went off the pill and went, holy dooly, like I can feel when I'm ovulating. I can feel when I'm about to get my period. And I started to build a relationship with my body that I didn't have as a teenager because I was on the pill. And for me, being able to feel when I get my period now, and it feels to me like I just really need to nurture myself. I just need to actually stop going out and just really be inwards, you know. And I think you're right, Kylie. I think that is such an important thing. And to feel supported and nurtured, like for men to actually hold that space for a woman and be aware and, you know, not judgmental or critical. We all have different experiences. Like I don't have as much pain as Kylie, and I don't probably get the full demon thing happening. But my daughter she's incredibly sensitive, and she would just cry for days, you know, and like to the point where I sort of am a little bit like, oh my God, what am I going to do with this, you know, because she's just like so emotional, you know. So I think absolutely it's something that as women, we probably even need to speak it more. We need to say, you know, give us this space, you know, acknowledge that this is what we're going through, and we're going to be doing this. We're going to be just like going away for a bit or sitting in the bedroom for a bit longer, or that sort of, and listening to our bodies, because it absolutely does, Kylie. Our body says this is a time to go in.
Yeah.
It does. Thank you so much. Sharon?
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think, you know, it would be lovely if we could start, like this is the starting point, is talking about it more and normalizing it. And then it would be so lovely if we could, you know, have some rituals or just understandings, you know, in our families. It's an area that is still a little bit taboo. I was asking my kids today, they're 21 and 23, and I said to Marco, did you know when Lisa had her period? And he said, oh, a bit. And I just kind of, you know, I didn't know a lot about it, but you know, you explained it, but I just kind of let her be. And I asked her, you know, how do you think he was towards you, if he knew? And she said, oh, he was always kind anyway, but yeah, he would just be kind. So that was nice just to hear that from them. It's not something we've talked about for a long time, but yeah, I think especially if you have boys and girls in the family, the more you can bring it out into the open and normalize it. And I think just going back quickly to Lisa Jayne's points too, and Kylie's point about the full demon, and I particularly was interested in what you said, Lisa Jayne, about are these emotions that are lurking there anyway, that are ready to come out, and then because of maybe a little bit of hormonal fluctuation, they then come out, like your daughter, you know. Certainly I had very obvious sort of build up to the event, and then some shocking moods, but I wasn't very good at stress management, and I didn't have a handle on anxiety, or, you know, I've done a lot of study and personal development since, and it's like, if I knew then what I know now, maybe I could have handled those moods a lot better. So I think, yeah, there is an element of things that are lurking or that we're dealing with anyway, that do rise and become apparent, maybe because of the hormonal changes. So
can I ask you on that? Sorry, Sharon, but I really want to ask you something just about that I just heard, because I don't want to get too far away. The anxiety for yourself and maybe the other women around having a period and not being understood, is it part of that not being understood and not feeling like you're a bit on your own and you're dealing with it and people just don't get you?
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, certainly in my case, as I said, Mum virtually, you know, scoffed. And, you know, I used to think, well, don't you get it? I mean, just because you didn't, I'd say that to her in that teenage high-pitched, you know, just because you didn't have bad periods doesn't mean I don't have bad periods, you know. And you could be a little bit more understanding, you know, but it just fell on deaf ears. It was obviously a very highly strung, emotional teenager with way too much anxiety, just lashing out. So I felt very much alone. So
inconvenience too, like that thing of being a teenager and knowing, bloody hell, I can't wear my white jeans this weekend, or you know, I'm going to go to this dance and I'm going to have my period, or I'm going to go away the weekend with girlfriends and we're going to go camping, but what if my period comes? Like, it's a freaking big inconvenience that does make you feel anxious as a teenager.
And then
just on that
road of, oh, well, I can just, you know, keep going with the pill and miss this period. And you know, that was when I was younger. Now there's all sorts of things that you can have, injections and stuff that just will just shut it down. What is that doing long term to you? What are you shutting down exactly? You know, maybe that's not ideal for your system. Maybe you need that release. And
and this is the thing, Kylie, because I've thought a lot about this. So if we acknowledge that a lot of the things that control unwanted pregnancies are going to shut down our feelings, so our enjoyment of sex is actually hindered as well. Like, I noticed that when I went off the pill. So then what are your options? Do you know what I mean? Like, that's the whole thing, you know, and because we actually don't know our bodies very well, so it's not like we have a lot of options.
No. And then, well, that opens a whole other one, you know. All these women are taking all these hormone things to stop getting pregnant, and you're like, we're not the only one at this party. There's other things that other people at the party could do, you know. How come it lands on us with all the fluctuating hormones and all the emotions that go with that, and the pain and the ongoing effects, and you know, everything that it can be to. It's huge.
Well, this whole conversation is huge, you know, like it can branch out to so many different areas. So in saying that, I am actually going to bring it back a bit, because there's Marta was just a gorgeous woman. I'm sorry to cut Sharon and Kylie off right now.
All right.
I was taught at Polish camp by an older camper upon what the effort was and how to cope with it. But as always, I was more inclined to be hanging out with the boys, and I couldn't talk to them about it. But as a person, all I wanted to do wanted to turn it into something comical. I walked around the camp area with a pad that I was given by one of the older girls, walking around like I had something stuck in my pants, because quite frankly, I had. Though determined at around the same age, I decided I didn't want. So I've mucked that a bit up. But that's somebody's experience with their period. And my whole aim for today is to open up, share those experiences, and educate men. And I'll give you the reason why. I'm very open. A lot of people hear me speak about Oscar, and I don't hide him from anything. And one of the things that happened was that, he accidentally saw porn through my phone, and in my Sunday sessions, I was talking about to another father, and I explained how I was racing to the shower, I threw him my phone and said, quickly grab meditation. I'll quickly watch the meditation before we go to bed, because we always meditate so we can get a good night's sleep. Jump to the shower, come out. I'm sitting there, Oscar's sitting there wide-eyed. I'm like, what are you looking at, bud? Nothing. Bud, what are you looking at? So I've gone up to him, he says this. I'm like, oh, okay. And it was porn. I didn't have the restrictions on my phone. And I'm like, damn. I said, buddy, how did you get to this? He goes, I typed in granny. And of all things, it was granny porn. So it wasn't the best version of it. Like, it's not what version of porn. But anyway,
Granny porn?
Yeah, granny porn. Because there's an arcade game called Granny, right? So I went back through the browser and I found Granny and video for the video game. And that was what he checked. I'm like, oh. So I said, okay, so what are we seeing here? How long did you see it? He goes, about 20 seconds. I said, how long did you see it? He goes, well, maybe a minute and a half. He said, so what did you see? He goes, well, the lady, she was scratching herself and she was screaming. I said, okay. And then what happened? She goes, well, this man come in and he put his pippic in her and she screamed more. I'm like, okay. I said, so here's the deal. What you saw there was sex, but it wasn't the best form of sex. And it's not something that I think is a good version of it. I'm happy to teach you about it. Do you want to know about it? Yes, Dad, I don't. I said, you're way too young to understand this. And that's okay, because sex is not this. It comes from the emotions. So anyway, we had a conversation about, I held space. I made sure he was okay. We talked it all out with him. Made sure he was strong enough. I said, listen, buddy, at any point in time, you can ask me anything about that. Any point in time, because I don't want you getting false information. If we need to Google to find things out, we will. But where this came about and where this took its structure is I shared that story at Sunday sessions with another father. And the next morning we're out running. It's like, that's gold. Anyway, about 3 months later, I pulled into a service station, and I'm pulling in the service station on the phone. Next thing is bang, bang, bang on the window. Oh, quick. I'm like, I'm on the phone. Yeah, okay. Anyway, I jumped out of the car, and this beautiful, beautiful man goes, I've got to share something with you. He goes, yesterday, the day before, he goes, I saw the letter came home from the school. Our daughters have been into the senior girls' toilets and they've seen pads, used pads. So we explained to them what, that's a period and perhaps you need to speak to your parents. This beautiful man got home and his wife didn't have a great experience when she had her first period, knew nothing about it and was all fear. He sat with his daughter and he explained to her that it was her period that she would get. She goes, oh, my God, am I going to bleed? He goes, yes, you do. That's part of becoming a woman. And she started freaking out. She goes, it's okay. He goes, well, you're actually going to get it once a month. She's like, what? Yeah, until you're mid to late 40s, and then she's freaking out. But here's the thing.
Old.
Yeah, but here's the thing. How strong is that man's relationship with his daughter
Yeah.
She knows she can go to him at any point and he's going to give her the heart. Imagine a society where you three women, and that's why I just adored hearing what your dad did, Sharon.
Yeah.
Imagine your men in your life, your fathers, your brothers. We held space for you because we understood you. The only way we're going to understand you is if you teach us. So that being said, that's one of my main passions for this, and it's so I do
Did you
want to
know,
talk.
Scott, that when women live together, their periods all come into sync? Little things like that, like there's all these little things, isn't there, that often we don't even talk to men about. But we know.
Well, it's funny because I've been chasing down research. There's four stages of menstruation. There's the menstrual phase, the follicular phase, ovulation phase, and the luteal phase. And yeah, I'm getting right into it because and talking about the women coming in together. Now, I've get more research because I think it's good because I didn't want to come to the table with nothing tonight.
Done well.
An interesting study in 1990 in the Journey of Psychiatric Research found that bright light at night can help regulate menstrual cycle. In the study, women with abnormally long cycles of about 45 days who slept with a 100-watt bulb turned on at night in their bedroom from day 13 to day 17 of their cycles successfully shortened their cycles to about 33 days. And another intriguing 2005 study out of India found that women who conceive while ovulating during a full moon are more likely to give birth to boys. And on the other hand, women who conceive while ovulating 3 days prior to the full moon are more likely to give birth to girls. The researchers chalk it up to a change in vaginal fluids and basal body temperature brought on by the changing moon phases. This hints that before electricity and the light bulb, shifts in the amount of light at night during the moon's various phases could possibly have played a significant role in our menstrual cycle, maybe by affecting certain body processes impacted by light exposure, such as the production of hormone melatonin, prompting all that folklore tying our menstrual cycle to the moon cycle. What do you think?
Wow.
Have you noticed the link between your menstrual cycles and the moon phases?
Yes. Yep.
I would say no, but I've actually been talking about this with a friend because some women bleed on the full moon.
Yeah. Yeah. And some women bleed on the new moon. And when you start doing, like I started doing a meditation group, and it's online and there's about 400 around the world. And we were all doing the same sort of things. And all these women were like, my cycle's changing and now it's on the new moon. And we're all like, yeah, we know. Like the whole group, 400 women online, all started to move towards the new moon rather than.
So how powerful is there in this connection? Like there's this incredible power, isn't there? And what does that mean then that we haven't honoured it for the last however many years, and how to honour it? And actually, I just want to quickly say, Sharon, because you were talking about rituals and things like that, and with my younger daughter, I thought I need to have a ritual for her. And a lot of times we don't do things because we don't know what we're doing, or we think I wouldn't know how to do that. But for me, like I just created this, like some of my very closest girlfriends that came and told their stories in a circle, gave her a gift. Her best friend did her hair for her, and like she was like, "Oh wow, this is really special. I'm actually really something wonderful happening to me," and she felt honoured. So she honoured the process, and it was so simple. And I think we've come so far away from that, and yet just these stories, like. This is very powerful, the connection that it creates. Very powerful.
That's beautiful. I love that idea of the ritual.
Yeah.
It's a great idea. And to make it something special, because there is so much negativity around it. about the bad moods and the bleeding and not being able to wear particular clothes and So wouldn't it be lovely if families could develop rituals and involve everybody? I think it'd be great. Yeah,
I'm looking at the smile on your face right now, Sharon, and it is stunning because I could see that in your life, if you had that, it would make you feel so much better. Take it, which I feel has been a negative experience for a lot of people, and actually celebrate.
it'd be nice, wouldn't it?
I don't have a daughter, but if I did, I'd be making sure that she knew that I was so proud of her just being a woman and try and hold that space. And I learning more about it now, I regret not doing that for my wife as much as I should have. So I'm looking at the comments and they're coming through, and I'm just going to throw a few up if that's okay. I think it's teaching girls from a very young age how sacred and powerful their bodies are, to love all parts of themselves, to understand their bodies. Then there wouldn't be that fear.
Yeah. True.
I truly believe that if we started celebrating women younger and there'd be more confidence in them being themselves rather than being something they're not. They'd have less pressure from social media to be something because they've been celebrated as this beautiful young woman as they are. Your thoughts on that? Oh, yeah, Lisa? Okay.
Yeah. So we were just all reading the comments then going, whoa. I think, I totally think that there's so much stuff out there now that make it very challenging for young people, men, like girls or boys, to accept themselves fully as they are. Whatever we can do to give them a sense of, wow, this is actually something that's very special about ourselves. And this is an easy thing to do, actually. This is probably one of the easiest things we can do for our girls. Like, it's much easier to actually address than the issues around social media. But in a family, like, we can address this and we can go, this is very sacred. It's very special. And how amazing is your body that you can now produce a life, but also that you have this incredible, this incredible system or process that's so connected. Like, I think it is. It's the sacredness, isn't it?
It is. And there's more and more people doing that sacredness and getting earlier. And there's the red tent movement. Do that, and then there's a lot of stuff. My niece has just started her first cycle, I think 2 months ago, and I want to do a ceremony. I want to do this, like, that really cool idea where we could, everyone could get, and even where, like, her dad and my son, her cousin could write a letter and say, well, this is what it means, this, and they don't have to be there, but just a whole little, almost like a party, which is a ceremony and ritual to just say it's okay, like it's. I
think it's important, and it bonds, like, because some of my closest friends were there, and they were saying things to her like, we are here for you always. Whatever happens in your life, we are committed to you because you have come into your womanhood, and we are women that have been through that. We know what it's like, and we are here for you. So reach out anytime. And, like, I was so moved because I didn't plan it. Like, I just said, come and bring a story, like, share your story. And and they bought, like, not gifts that were meaningless, but they like, one woman made something, like, it was just so beautiful. And it was nothing big. It was no amazing ritual or anything. It was just this connection of support. And it was about a year after she had her first cycle. So you didn't have to rush it. Like,
that's good.
Yeah, and I just went, actually, it was a very intuitive thing. It was like, oh, it's the right time. I'm in a place where I can do it. And so I just did it, and it unfolded really beautifully.
Yeah, that's gorgeous. I'm going to do that. Whether my sister-in-law, I think, is okay, because she it happened during isolation, and she was at work, and her sister was looking after the kids, and it's kind of hit her. She's like, my sister was there instead of me. It should have been me, and my sister had to coach her through it. And so I think even for her, it would be a little bit more healing to go, you know, do this. And that's
So
all.
She probably needs that ceremony as much.
Yeah, the ceremony as well.
Yeah.
I think so. I think it's so much more to do. Oh, what's this comment? Easier way.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I'm not jumping over. I'm sorry. I'm just throwing this comment in there because this one is the cycle with the moon.
Yeah, the moon.
Easier way to.
There's actually 13 lunar cycles in a year, and that's women's cycles. That, yeah.
Well, I think that's something that, you know, we can probably dive into more. But I just want to share with you my thoughts on this. There's a lot of comments coming through, and I'm sorry if I'm not putting them all up because I'm digging deep as I can into this because it's like I'm hearing. That was one of the most beautiful things I just heard. Then was, you know, to actually get around a young woman and share stories and give her gifts and let her know that it's such a special occasion would build her confidence in ways I could imagine the three of you would have just adored.
Yeah.
Sharon, if you could share that with us and what that would mean to you.
Sorry, I was looking at the comments.
Oh, no.
Sorry, Scott. Sorry. Just say the last part again for me. I heard some of it. Sorry.
Okay. So, what would it have meant to you if you had a group of women sit with you, share stories, give you a gift, and welcome you to womanhood from women? And I think as a group, one of the most beautiful things I heard from another man, believe it or not, was that his wife and her friends are prepared that when the girls have their first period, they will sit with them.
Yeah.
And just enjoy the moment. Like, and here's a man. I said, so what are you going to bring to the table? He goes, I'm just going to sit and enjoy and let her know I've got her when it's time. And I'm like, the look in your face and the smile in your eyes right now.
Yeah.
It would have meant the world to you,
Oh, it's just lovely to hear all of this. And I was reading the comments because there's so many great ideas on there and recommendations for people who work in this area. So I urge everybody who's watching the live or the replay to read through all of that because there's some great information there. Quite a few people mentioned Muriel Hart and her work. But, I just think this whole idea about rituals and how beautiful would it be to have a group of ladies sitting around and welcoming. I love that idea, Lisa Jayne, that you did that for your daughter.
I was just thinking some of the stories were amazing. Yeah. Like one girl shared how she never felt validated, how she went to older people and she didn't actually honor herself. And she shared that as a teenager she didn't honor herself and people told her things and she just believed it. And so my daughter was hearing how she moved through this process of actually just being told things by doctors and everybody else and just believing it.
Yeah.
You know, and this friend of mine said to her, question everything. Yeah. Listen to your body because it will tell you, you know, and I mean, like I can say that to my daughter, but it's not the same. If somebody else tells you, you know, she's much more like So it was a very beautiful opportunity.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating because at the moment I'm reading The Boy Crisis and I'm 2 hours into it and I'm becoming even stronger in my conviction about creating men, creating women. Listening to you, how strong you are about supporting each other and having other women doing it. For me as a man, I believe my job is to make Oscar as strong as I possibly can. But other men are going to make him a man. I give him the groundworks, but other men are going to give him the validation and the strength to be that great man. And that's what I'm hearing within this right now. And I'm so proud of you for doing this. And Kylie, can you take over from here because I'm feeling it today right now.
You're a sweetie. I'm reading actually John Hope's message. He said, said amazing and thankful. And he said, special acknowledgement for Scotty, amazing effort leading a conversation I don't think any man could do. And there are actually a lot of men that could have this conversation, that could lead it. And Scott, of course, hold a special place in my heart. But there are a lot of men, and they're out there. They're absolutely out there, and I'm blessed to be surrounded by them. They're incredible, and they have these conversations. And they hold this space, and they fully understand what they need to do. And they and even one of the men here, I'm sorry, I can't remember. He said he downloaded the Flow app to keep it up with his partner. He said he was just looking for more sex, I think. But
that's on me.
I'm just one of the greatest hearts I've ever met. And here's the fascinating thing for me. Men love women. We love you.
I know.
You have to let us love you. You have to educate us, because right now we're wanting to learn. Look at the men and the quotes are coming from them.
Yeah.
You know, we want to know, because we will hold you on that pedestal. We will hold you there. But you have to let us. You have to teach us how.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've never seen so many comments on this Thursday night session. So we really opened up something, and that's great. Somebody said, it just says Facebook user, blossoming circles are a thing. They are held monthly for pre-teens, and they do those rituals. So I've got a lot more research to do on this. This is great.
Yeah, I think that's blossoming circles. Intense stuff. Yeah.
I was just having a thought, like as we're sharing how menstruating really brings women together. Like it's this commonality. Actually, I've got a funny story about this, because my 24-year-old daughter, a couple of years ago, I missed a period, and my daughter, I said to her, I think I'm going through menopause. And she got really upset, and I got really upset, right? We're standing there looking at each other, and we're almost crying. And she said, we won't have anything in common, like this commonality that I had with my daughter. And like, it was just a month. And so we're like, oh, phew, you know. But I was so amazed at how both of us just went, like we were both really impacted by the fact that we thought we weren't going to share this commonality anymore. And women share this commonality, but men don't have a commonality like that to share. Like, have you thought? I'd never actually thought about that until this conversation.
Yeah. And then, like we share that, and that's, you know, I always go, oh, go the sisterhood, you know, like that bonds us. But what do they have? Oh, poor men, they don't have
that's a very relevant point, and that's one of my missions in life, is to find that point. My whole mission in life is to allow men to love women, for us men to be men. But how do we become men? How do we do that? Where do we start? Give us a target. I'm so tired of talking about toxic masculinity, because you're not giving us something to aim at. You're telling us what not to do, and that becomes a focus. Teach us what to do, because believe it or not, we're stepping up. Men are stepping. You've asked
accompany us in our pain. Accompany us in our pain, Scott. It's about just being there and hearing and validating, and not fixing or rescuing, you know. And it's creating emotionally safe relationships where we feel so safe we can share whatever's going on for us. You know, and that's about everybody doing their own work and not reacting and not taking things personally. Just really being there with us and going, yeah, I get that. I get that must really hurt for you. Or I get that sucks right now. Let me put my arms around you, darling, and just kiss you on the head. Oh.
Judge, I'm going to ask you a question right now. That what if we become that? What if we become the man that's vulnerable, that can sit there and hold the space for you?
What a beautiful world.
Are you going to be honest enough to share that with us?
Yeah.
I think that's a practice, isn't it? A process, but it's a great place to start.
Yeah, I agree. Right now we're starting so well, you know. Like I'm learning so much tonight. and I adore this place called the Campfire Project. This is where we met. This is where we, and we're having these conversations because they're bloody important.
Yeah.
They're important to bring beautiful women into the world that men can love. It's important for men to understand that, it's a two-way street. We've got to help each other out. Love's a road that is continually under repair, but you've both got to be going in the same direction. Otherwise, the road doesn't get built. So, we're getting into the 55-minute, and we could go for ages on this. And look, I'm very, very, very grateful for the three of you for one particular reason. You've made me feel safe enough to have this conversation with you all.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you.
But on that, I'm going to ask each of you. I'm going to start with you, Sharon. Next, we're going to have another crack at this about menopause, but today's about period and understanding that. If you have one bit of advice you could give to a man about periods, what would it be?
I think ask questions. Frank and I recently did a relationship course with a couple that works in Western Australia, and they're very, very good, and it's called Relationship Warriors. And I guess one of the biggest things that he learned was just to keep asking the questions, and as Lisa Jane said, not to try and fix it, but to say, is there anything else, and what else happened, and is there anything else that you need to tell me? Because they said men need to be loved and admired, and I think they take it a bit, they need to be on that pedestal, and they need to know that we respect them and adore them. But he said women need to be heard. Women need to know that they're being listened to. So one of the things that he has learned is to say, now something's wrong, and what else, until I've completely unloaded. And then I'm done. That's it. I'm good. and then we have a hug, and he goes off to work, and it's great. But yeah, it's something that neither of us had the ability to do. So we've learnt that, I've got to open up, and he asks the questions. Same goes in reverse, but more often it's women who need to unload, I think. Yeah.
No, so thank you very much.
About periods, then that would be the discussion. Yeah, I'm not feeling great. I'm anxious. I'm a demon.
Okay, so on that though, I'll dive a little bit deeper quickly. When is the right time to ask? Because it's not just about digging deeper, because there's times when you can dig deeper and times when you can't.
Yeah.
When is that right time?
Yeah, I think it's hard for guys to know when women are feeling, because so often, they'll say, is something wrong? And the old, no, nothing, which means lots. Because maybe we've made that decision that now's not a good time. I don't want to tell you all this when you're just about to head out the door. I might tell you tonight, or I might have settled down by tonight. But yeah, I think it's just encouraging each person to speak up when there is a problem, and the other one to ask the questions whenever you feel that something might not be quite right. Just keep those lines of communication open.
Can I ask something, and for your advice on this? I believe that trust is the key to everything. Yep. So for a guy to actually trust himself enough to ask about a period or something really personal, we're nervous going into it. If a woman doesn't want to talk about it, it's okay for her to say no. But the importance of her saying, well, I'm happy to talk about it later.
Yeah.
And then follow through with that will allow the confidence in a man to be able to sit there with that. Because that's our biggest fear. We ask questions, we're going to get smacked down. Can't deal with it right now. Okay, I appreciate that, but I'm trying to pay attention do you mind giving it back to me? Is that so? Sorry, I'm sort of hijacking that a little bit, but just
That's good. I like that.
Yeah. So sorry, there's a bit more. Thank you, Sharon.
You're welcome.
Lisa.
Well, I was thinking that because I think that it's really never about the event or what's happening, but it's always about the connection that you're creating. So if you're thinking about, it might be about menstruation, but actually this is an opportunity for me to really connect with my partner and get to understand and know her. So using the opportunity to actually find out more about her, like, can you help me understand? You know, and for a woman, it's about, because this is something that we actually don't go, these are all the things that I would love in my life. We don't speak that. We have a relationship and we settle for these, I don't know, behaviors. And we never go, actually, I would really like more affection in my relationship, or I would really like this. This is, we don't speak it. We are not, I don't believe that in general as a species, we are honest enough about how we feel. And that is a practice. But using everything to develop our honesty and our ability to communicate in a way that creates connection rather than division. So using things like, you know, I have a feeling that made me have a feeling and I'd like to share that with you. Or, you know, I'm feeling resentful and I don't want to feel resentful towards you. I'd like to share it with you. Or can you help me understand? Like the words that don't create a reaction will help build connection. So it's just an opportunity. It's another opportunity to create an emotionally safe relationship with someone.
I'm loving that, and I'm hearing a whole nother panel on that. How to have a conversation without, how to ask the right questions, how to actually ask the question. What are those questions? Where to go about that? And so maybe that's another one.
Because you have to have emotional courage to ask the question, and you have to have emotional strength to hear it and to be able to answer it without getting defensive or taking it personally. And you've got to develop, they're both muscles. Emotional strength and courage are things you have to build. They don't just happen.
Yeah. And it comes with support. So thank you so much for that. I'm going to, for a minute. Thank you, Lisa. Kylie.
I remember seeing, I think it was like a meme or something, and it said, women want men to protect us, not because we're unable to do it ourselves, but because they know we're important. And
that's beautiful.
Yeah. We're perfectly capable of doing it ourselves, but we need, if men could just protect us because we're important, not because we're weaker, not because, you know, they, whatever reason, just protect it, and we want it. And Alan made a comment there about women can take it. This is where men can take a true role, standing with their women and being the protector that actually we all want them to be. Men want to be that, and understand what we feel, and just give us that space to go, you know what, I am feeling this, and that's not a reflection of anything else. You haven't done anything wrong. This is just what's happening. And sometimes we don't need you to fix it. Sometimes we need you to fix it. And well, we generally have, and women have to be better. Like Lisa said, we have to be better at saying, I want you to fix this, or I just want to vent, and I don't need you to fix it. I just need you to hold that. And that's emotional intelligence and a bit of courage to be vulnerable. And I promise you, women will love it if you're vulnerable with them. I promise you. There are many rewards for it.
I'm going in to be vulnerable.
Do it.
Listen,
That's great.
if you don't know where to start, and before I do that, thank you so much to the three of you. The comments that are flowing through mean that it is an important thing to talk about.
Yeah.
Thank you for being honest and vulnerable enough to let a man talk to you about periods. It's something that, you know, in general doesn't happen. And for me, my last thing I want to finish on tonight is we need to learn to love each other. It's something we've forgotten. Men love women. We've built Taj Mahals, we've built pyramids, we've built the most beautiful things just to let you know that we love you. Let us love you. It's a brave thing to do. So on that tonight, I just want to say thank you so much to everybody who's on the panel, everybody who's commented, and I look forward to bringing a lot more beautiful things to everybody. And listen, if you've got something that you want to talk about, please let us know, because clearly we're going to talk about it. So, panel, thank you so much.
Thank you,
Everyone
Scott.
who's watching, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, lady. Awesome.
Yeah, thanks, Kylie and Sharon. Great
Thank you,
conversation.
girls. Thank you.
Well, folks, well, next week's Kundalini week. We're speaking about Kundalini. I'm going to learn about Kundalini.
Yeah.
Two of the panelists on here tonight are going to be on the same panel. So, and we're bringing in Omji, and Omji is a specialist. He does Kundalini transcript, so it's going to be epic. I'm going to be learning more again. So, look forward to seeing everybody next Thursday night. Get your one-on-ones done. Be a part of the panel. Be a part of the conversation. Love this stuff. Anyway, thanks, guys. Have a great week, and we'll see you next Thursday.
Bye.
Thanks, panel. Bye. Okay.